We're Group 1, and today we're presenting on nonverbal communication. This is defined as messages expressed by other than linguistic means. We see and use nonverbal communication daily in all interactions. It gives us an insight into the meanings behind conversations, and reading it can be an extremely useful tool. Hi, I'm Allison. So our group is presenting on nonverbal communication, and I'll be focusing on the subcategory of kinesics. So as we all know, nonverbal communication is an essential factor to communication itself. It gives us an important insight into what our communicative partner is thinking or what they may be really intending to say. Even if someone is telling a lie as they speak, nonverbal communication may tell otherwise and give their lie away. Nonverbal communication that is sent and received in a message can also give a clue to what type of response may be appropriate in a given situation. And of the many categories of nonverbal communication, I'm focusing on kinesics. The definition of kinesics is the study of body position and motion. So this would include touching, posture, body orientation, eye contact, gestures, facial expressions, and more. And then these are all going to be really vital to reading communication. So to look into kinesics, I will be showing you a visual I created that just kind of explains the definition of kinesics and some things it can consist of. Then after that, I will be showing you some video clips that use kinesics. I mean, in all honesty, all conversations use it, whether you notice it or not. But I'm going to take a look at different video clips from some TV shows or just different interactions, and then look at the use of kinesics in it and kind of what it's portraying and the message it's sending. First, I have this visual, which is just kind of explaining some different aspects of kinesics. So here we have posture. This would also include body orientation. So, for example, if I'm having a conversation, let's say I'm in a job interview. If my posture is really bent over, my shoulders are shrugged in, it probably shows that I'm not interested or I don't care. Whereas if my posture was tall, shoulders back, chin up, it would be showing the person interviewing me that I'm interested and engaged in the conversation. So that's just one example of how your body orientation or a posture could theoretically affect the message that your communicative partner is receiving from you. So another one I wanted to talk about is eye contact. So here I drew some eyes that are looking down. So if I'm talking to someone and I'm looking directly into their eyes, it's going to show them that I'm interested in the conversation, I'm listening to what they have to say, and I'm engaged. Whereas if I'm looking down, looking away, they might think I'm not interested. It might portray that I'm shy or nervous, and they might not feel a warm, welcoming vibe from me. So another thing is touching. Say I met someone for the first time. Theoretically, there could be many forms of touching that take place. I could shake their hand, I could hug them, and this kind of gives off a vibe, and it shows your interest. The situation also calls for different forms of touching. So if I'm meeting someone for the first time and they're superior to me, I'm probably going to shake their hand and introduce myself. Whereas if I'm meeting up with one of my friends and I see them, I'm going to hug them, which gives off a friendlier vibe. So basically, this is just kind of explaining some of the different aspects of kinesics and kind of the meaning behind them. Next, I will show you a clip from a very popular TV show, Grey's Anatomy. This is a scene where the main character, Meredith, is confronting a panel regarding her license as a doctor. So we're going to take a look at the kinesics involved in this interaction.
Did Dr. Gray's insubordinate behavior almost cost her daughter's adoption, Dr. Karev?
I'm sorry, I don't see how her family life is relevant here.
She seems to be fairly cavalier about the law in both her professional and personal life, so I'd say it's relevant. In fact, she used her youngest daughter's identity to commit insurance fraud.
Alan Brown, Farah Al-Azari, Deborah Green, and Sam Carter.
Dr. Gray, we have your list of patient testimonies here. You don't need to repeat them.
Those are the names of the spouses of every patient I've ever lost. I remember every single one of them.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You don't get to sit up there and ask questions about my daughter. If you want to take my license and make sure I never see another patient again, then you do that. But you have absolutely no right to ever mention my daughter's name because you are the one who killed her father. You don't remember me. But I remember you. As the coward who stood over my dying husband.
You're gonna be fine.
The love of my life, and you didn't even attempt to do burr holes after he failed to get him a head CT. Burr holes!
We don't have time for a CT.
I was doing burr holes as an intern. That one night should have cost you your entire career. But instead, you're sitting up here judging me? You don't deserve to judge anyone.
Your Honor, if we could just take a short recess to evaluate the situation and see if Dr. Gray's conflict of interest is.
My conflict of interest? My medical license should not be in this man's hands. He is dangerous.
So this scene from Grey's Anatomy is very interesting because not only does it involve kinesics, but it also involves many other forms of nonverbal communication. For example, Meredith's tone of voice is pretty harsh, and there's a lot of other things involved here. Their choice of clothing, the location of the situation taking place. So this is all very relevant, but the kinesics in this are pretty interesting because you can tell at first, while Alex Karev is talking, Meredith's kind of sitting in her seat, looking around, and by this you can tell that she's uneasy and pretty bothered. So then, as soon as she stands up, she does so very rapidly. Her shoulders are back, posture straight, head up, and her eye contact is right on. She does not look away from the panel's eyes, and this shows her intent in the situation. She is very serious. She really cares about what she's saying. And then it gets even more interesting as she approaches the judge who she's talking to. And in this, it shows her anger, and it really just shows us what she's feeling despite the words she's saying. So as she continues to get up, you notice her use of hands in talking. And a lot of people do this even without realizing it. But she's pointing, she's using her hands to emphasize, and this is just showing us that she's really passionate about what she's saying. And so this kind of gives us an insight into the conversation in a sense that while she's being very, very serious about what she's saying, she also really means it and cares about it. So then, the most interesting part of this, I think, is as soon as she gets up, her lawyer, I believe, is trying to stop her and kind of sit her back down and not cause a scene. But as soon as Meredith is touched, her hand flies away, she breaks away, and you can just see the anger in her when she does this. So I find this very interesting, and this is a great example of how kinesics is used in everyday conversations and in almost every single situation. So I hope this helped to kind of explain what kinesics is and the importance of it. I really want to get across that we might not always notice what our kinesics are consisting of. We might not be noticing whether we're making eye contact or not, the way our posture is, the way our body's facing. We might not notice that we're making motions with our hands, but these are all things that our communicative partner is picking up on, and they're going to use this to help them formulate a response or to even kind of read the situation. So this is something really important, and I think it can also be really helpful if we take the time to read other people's kinesics. So thank you for listening.
Hello, I am Ronan, and I am doing the physical environment of our nonverbal cues. So when it comes to the physical environment, there's two major things that the physical environment does as a nonverbal cue. And this involves, one, it gives an impression on whoever designed or decorated the environment, and two, it helps, it helps change or give an impression of how a person needs to act or behave in that certain, environment. So, first of all, when it comes to something like a bedroom, it's easier to, it's easier to judge the person who, owns the bedroom because they're usually the one who decorates or, how they kind of maintain their bedroom is basically very telling of how they might act. So, You know, like a messy bedroom would probably be a lot more telling of someone who's not very responsible, or maybe they're not very, you know, they don't really care that much about their hygiene or something like that. And then someone who has a tidy, nice bedroom, you know, that means that they're very organized and they're not really, you know, they're a lot more on top of things as opposed to, you know, someone who isn't. And let's see, there's also some like design choices, you know, maybe someone just really likes the color purple and they have like a bedroom that's filled with things that are colored purple, then, you know. So right now I'm currently in my bedroom, and so using my bedroom as an example, you know, as I said before, physical environments, they can give an impression of the person who decorated it and stuff. So using my bedroom as an example, you could probably tell, you know, maybe I'm kind of more of a messy person, and maybe I'm not as responsible as some other people, but this is my bedroom because it's convenient to use as an example. Right there I have like a bunch of stuff on like my drawers and stuff, but which is partially because there's not a lot of room in this bedroom. It's like probably like 12 by 12 feet or something. There's a bunch of stuff over there. There's some like artwork and stuff because, yeah, and then more artwork stuff. There's my bed. It's not very, you know, it's not made bed, so. And then there's my desk, and it's got whatever stuff, some magazines to like use for like collage and stuff. But if you notice in the bedroom, I am in a very blue bedroom. You know how I said that someone might like purple a lot? Well, I like blue, so. And yeah, bed right there. It's kind of, I have to pretty much be in one corner of the room in order to actually be able to video this, but yeah. So, as I've said before, the first one is, you know, it gives an idea to whoever decorates the place and whatnot. But for the second one, it is the, you know, basically gives an idea of how a person should act and, you know, how they should behave or, you know, expect things. So, considering that I'm in my bedroom, I'm not very, like, usually when people think of bedrooms, they usually think of a place to relax or rest. You know, you got your bed and you just want to sleep. But for my bedroom specifically, I have a desk as well. So it's pretty much my place where I both sleep, but I also work. So it kind of depends usually on how you think of the physical environment. So like, you know, for me, like as I said before, I've got both a desk and a bed. So it's like, even though it's my bedroom, I still do work here. And there's a lot of, there's different contexts for each physical environment. So let's say you're going to like a wedding or something, and it wouldn't be appropriate to wear like pajama wear or, you know, anything that's not very formal. And you also wouldn't want to wear, like, if you're going to like a funeral, you wouldn't want to wear something that's not appropriate. Like, I think, you know, if you wear white, I think, then it's not very appropriate compared to like wearing a black attire, because black is more suited to, like, I guess, a mourning. And let's see, you know, there's been lots of other examples, like, you know, you feel a lot more inclined to work in an office than you are inside of a bedroom, because that's usually how it goes, where this sort of environment kind of changes the way you behave, you know. So like, going outside would be a lot more, you know, you would be more alert, first of all, especially with the quarantine and stuff, and you'd probably be you know, in the context, you'd probably be going somewhere as opposed to being in one place. You know, maybe you're going to the park, or, you know, you want to exercise, but that's pretty much how physical environment works. Also, there's another thing that I want to point out is that the physical environment usually ties in with other nonverbal cues. So, for example, how earlier I said, you wouldn't want to wear pajamas to a wedding or something, then that would be, the nonverbal cue of clothing. So it ties into like that aspect of things. And also, when I said, like my bedroom is pretty small, so there's not very much room to like move around. So if there's another person in here, like I would have to, like the nonverbal cue of proxemics and stuff, where like body motion and other things, like that would be also taken into play, and it would pretty much, it's all interacting together to, pretty much give a certain vibe. So like if someone was in here, I'd probably be uncomfortable, because for one thing, I'm not really ready to show someone my room. Pretty much, I'm not really, it's all messy, and there's not much room to move around. So not only me, like I would be uncomfortable, but they would also be uncomfortable. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Madeline Schaefer, and I'll be talking about vocalics as a type of nonverbal communication. So vocalics, or paralanguage, is the use of vocal messages in nonverbal communication. Or more simply put, the use of your voice to communicate in a way that does not involve language. The different types of nonverbal communication are often seen as having nothing to do with the voice, because when we think of the voice, usually we think language or words. But paralanguage is one of the most influential types of nonverbal communication. Using vocalics enables us to put emphasis on certain words, to speak in a sarcastic manner, to send nonverbal messages through intentional or unintentional pauses in our speech, to use vocalized pauses, and to show a range of emotions through the volume and tone of the voice. Paralanguage can also be used to complement other forms of nonverbal communication. Using a specific tone of voice, along with a facial expression or body movement, can more accurately display the meaning of a message than vocalics can when it's used by itself. So, for example, if I were to say, "You look amazing," while smiling but saying it in a monotone style voice, it could come off as insincere or even sarcastic. But if I accompany it by a cheerful tone of voice, and then the meaning that I'm trying to convey is more accurately expressed. So as well as complementing other types of nonverbal communication, vocalics can be helpful when other types of nonverbal communication are not working or when they cause misunderstandings. The tone and volume of the voice gives a lot of clues to how a person is trying to convey their message. For example, take the phrase, "I'm sorry." By changing my tone of voice, I can change its meaning. I can say, "I'm sorry," or I could say, "I'm sorry." And those two phrases have two completely different meanings. One of them is sincere and one is very aggressive and angry. And whoever said that does not mean that they're really sorry. So when using paralanguage, accenting certain words when communicating can help put emphasis on the message that you want to send, and it gives the receiver of the message a better understanding of what you are saying. So there are many great aspects to vocalics in nonverbal communication, but paralanguage can often contribute to ambiguity in relationships, and it can cause contradicting messages. Nonverbal messages are many times more convincing than verbal messages are. So the nonverbal message is more likely to be believed than the verbal message is. For example, if my brother approaches me and he asks me if he can use my car, and I reply with a sigh before I start speaking, and I say, "Sure, you can," and my tone of voice is low and irritated, he's more likely to believe that I really just don't want him to use my car. So the two messages that I'm sending are contradicting each other, and they're sending mixed messages to my brother. So when communicating, the tone and volume of the voice can give clues to the speaker's intentions. For instance, speaking for a short amount of time and making errors when talking and a raise in pitch are all factors that might indicate towards lying. And although liars can give clues to their behavior through vocalics, in a research study done, scholars Judy Burgoon and Tim Levine found through research that we're just not as precise in discovering lies as we think we are. So this is where we see that although being able to recognize vocalics is helpful, it's not as helpful as we might think. And a person's tone of voice is not always an accurate way to understand their intentions. A person's unique tone of voice can affect the way they're thought about. For example, when I'm in a social situation, I rarely speak. And when I do, it's usually very quiet and reserved. I often have had people tell me that they thought I didn't care about what people thought of me, and that I was not anxious about being in a social situation. And my tone of voice may be very quiet and relaxed, but on the inside, I'm usually a nervous wreck. And I care very much about what others think of me. Similarly, one of my friends speaks in a very bold way, and she has gained a reputation of being confident and even extroverted. But if you were to have a conversation with her, she would tell you that she would rather be alone than surrounded by people. But this, of course, is influenced by culture. For example, being quiet, opposed to being loud in some Asian cultures, like Japan, is seen as respectful. But here in America, sometimes being quiet can be seen as like awkward or even disrespectful. So silence is also a form of paralanguage, and sometimes not saying something can have the same impact, if not more of an impact, than using language can. For example, if I'm at work and my coworkers notice that I haven't been as talkative as I usually am, they might assume that something is wrong with me or that I'm upset about something. And in this situation, my silence is sending a message about how I'm feeling. And in other situations, silence can be seen as rude, like when I'm talking to my sister and she's not responding. Instead, she's just shrugging her shoulders and nodding her head. And if I'm expecting an answer from her, if I'm talking about something important and I want her to answer, then her silence feels like a refusal to talk to me, which is seen as a little rude. So paralanguage is a very effective way of conveying feelings and emotions without having to use language, and it's very helpful in providing ways for people to express themselves. And although it can be ambiguous and it's not always executed in an understandable way, it provides us with a deeper level of communication, which ultimately will deepen our relationships. That's all I got. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hannah Burney, and I will be covering haptics in nonverbal communication. Haptics, also known as physical touch, can be a very powerful form of nonverbal communication. It can take on many meanings, such as being formal, friendly, aggressive, encouraging, and many other things. Touch can send many different types of signals. It can help you decipher what kind of relationship you have with a person, if you are close or strangers. It can help you determine what those around you are feeling, or it can help you be there for someone when they're going through something difficult. Let us say you meet someone in a formal setting, like an interview for a job. Obviously, you would not go in and greet your interviewer with a hug. That would be very casual and not well suited for the situation. A better greeting that would be more appropriate for this type of interaction would be a firm handshake. This type of greeting shows more respect and is more professional than a hug would be. When meeting an interviewer, chances are you want to give off your best appearance and act as hire-worthy as you can. Going in with a hug would be improper and give off a sense of inexperience. It would give the interviewer the idea that you may not be taking the interview very seriously. In this setting, you would want to be able to show your respect for the employer and that you are taking the interview seriously. This shows that you would take the job seriously as well, thus making you better suited to work at the establishment. Just this small greeting can send signals that can make or break your opportunity to obtain the job. If you are meeting up with a friend, however, and you greet them with a hug, this would be appropriate. It would show them that you are happy to see them and that you love them. Different hugs, such as side hugs and full hugs, can mean different things to different people. Another factor is how long is the hug. If you are stuck in quarantine, as many of us are right now, and you have not seen your best friend in months, once you are reunited, your hug would probably be held for a long time. This would insinuate that you have missed one another, making up for lost time. Another indicator of what a person is feeling could be communicated by how tight the hug is. If it is a long, tight hug, this would also indicate that you love and miss one another. On the other hand, if someone were to greet you with a loose, short side hug, this would probably send the opposite message. It would probably tell you that you two are not that close, and it could mean they may be uncomfortable giving you a full hug, or even a hug in general. Aggression can be shown in many ways when it comes to touch. Punches, slaps, and other forms of violence are some of the easiest types of nonverbal communication to read. It is pretty hard to misunderstand a punch to the face. Some types of violence can be seen as friendly, however. If a friend or someone you are close with punches you on the shoulder lightly, this is seen as playful instead of aggressive. However, if two people started punching each other playfully, it could easily dissolve into a fight if there were some hidden feelings of hostility between the two people. Some may take a light punch to the shoulder as a playful sign of affection, but if they know the other person rarely does that, then it could mean something different. They could be hinting at the desire to punch you for real and produce real harm. Knowing a person's typical way of communicating nonverbally with physical touch would be helpful in situations like this. Another way that touch can be used is to encourage people or comfort them. If someone is going through a difficult time, giving them a hug or gently placing your hand on their shoulder would let them know that you are there for them. These comforting gestures can help someone who is feeling down. It can help them feel that they are not alone. When someone is upset, sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there for them. It can also help them feel more comfortable telling you about what is troubling them and opening up to you. It would encourage them that you have their back and that they can trust you. Physical touch, otherwise known as haptics, is an important means of nonverbal communication. It can help people better understand what words can fail to convey, whether that be respect, love, anger, or encouragement. Touch can better relay whatever sentiment you wish the receptor to comprehend. Haptics can be a reliable way to inform someone of your intentions, or just a reassuring gesture to confirm everything is going to be all right. It must be used wisely, however. If touch is used irresponsibly, it could have lasting, harmful effects. Unlike some of the other types of nonverbal communication, haptics can cause real harm. It is important to be responsible with how it is used. But when used well, haptics can help you say what words fail to convey.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Arshpreet Kaur. I'm going to be talking about one of the nonverbal cues known as proxemics. And then proxemics, it's the study of how people as well as animals choose to use distance and space. There's two different types of dimensions of proxemics, which is distance and territoriality. So basically it's that all of us carry around ourselves like this personal bubble, personal space that we take along with us wherever we go. This bubble is meant to be our own private space. In any moment at all, someone tries to cross this bubble, we feel as if our space is being invaded. The reason behind this is because our willingness to get close to others, emotionally as well as physically, all depends on the person we are with and the situation we are in. So basically the distance we voluntarily end up putting between ourselves and the other person, it basically non-verbally indicates and gives them a clue basically of how we feel about them as well as the relationship we hold with them. So we in the book we had explained by, in the book there's an explanation that there's an anthropologist named Edward T. Hall, and he defined 4 types of distances that North Americans use in their everyday life, and he named them, well, renamed them Hall's 4 zones of personal space, and they include intimate space, intimate distance, the second one personal distance, third one social distance, and finally we have public distance. And then the thing is that choosing an appropriate distance between ourselves and the other person, the other individual, it can have a huge effect on how we respect them as well as how we respond to them. So I'm going to be going over these distances, these zones. So the first one would be the intimate distance, which is usually from intimate touch to about 18 inches, which is about this much where I'm standing right now. This is an intimate space. And then we usually use this space with people who we're emotionally attached with and close to us. And this space usually we use for private situations, for between couples and what they do behind closed doors and whatnot. And then the second one we're going to talk about is personal space. And this ranges from 18 feet to 4 feet, which is about from here to all the way to right here. This is their personal space. Okay. Okay, so this personal space, we usually use it with people we're comfortable having at an arm's length. And this basically depicts that these people that come under this category are reasonably close, but not enough close, like personal space, like so close, like I mean intimate space. Yeah, not close enough as an intimate space, but they're close enough. And then the third one would be 4 feet to 12 feet, which I'm not going to show right now, but this is the social distance that we use for mostly business. When we talk to a salesperson, we're conducting any type of business with anyone or any conversation like that. This is what we use that for. And the last one is public distance. And this is usually 12 feet and beyond. And this is a space we usually use for teachers teaching students, or we're public speaking where we don't have any interactions. Like, they can hear me speaking, but I technically don't have to, unless they have a mic or something, I might not hear them, And then, okay, so that's the 4 different types of distances. So the thing is that the personal space isn't the only thing we feel that belongs to us. There's another aspect, like I was talking in the beginning. There's something called territoriality. And it's basically territory, and it's another type of space, but unlike personal space, which personal space goes with us wherever we go, territory stays exactly where it is. It stays stationary, motionless. Like, okay, if I were to give an example, would be like my room. My room is my territory, and regardless if I'm there or not, it is still my room. It's my personal territory. So space has another significance. Space basically signifies the amount of power we hold, and it is believed that more personal territory and privacy usually indicate a higher status. Like, if I were to give just a small example, smallest example would be like, we usually knock before entering our boss's office, but do they do that in return for us? No, they just usually walk in because they don't feel any hesitation or anything. They feel as if they can do that, because of their position status, because they have a higher status. But there's other examples like this, but thank you for watching this video. Thank you, bye.
Hi, my name is Daniel Carpenter, and I will be covering about half of Kinesics, both body orientation and posture specifically, because we discovered pretty late on that we had to split that one in half. We had both picked the same subject. So yeah, the way I sort of wanted to divide these two things up, body orientation and posture, is I wanted to divide them both into two sections. So body orientation, generally speaking, in layman terms, there is open and closed body orientation. So say you are speaking to your boss, you usually want to have assertive body language that is still like receptive, and you want to portray that you're understanding anything they are saying, and you want to make sure that they're understanding anything you're saying. So you want to have sort of open body language, and with that you are going to face them, usually make eye contact, but you don't want to, of course, stare into their soul, and then make sure your feet are facing them. That way, if they speak, they'll know that you are understanding and receiving everything that they're saying, as well as vice versa. So that would be sort of one example of open body language in a practical use. And then there is also the closed body language or body orientation that you can have. There's a few, it seems like with open body language, there's far less that's seen as like open necessarily in body orientation. So with closed off body orientation, you can have a few different sections of it. So the way I sort of see it is that there's like angry body orientation, and then there's also dismissive, and then there's also just like sad, from what I can get. So if you're gonna have sad closed off body orientation, you're usually gonna have slouched shoulders. You're going to be generally facing away from the person you're talking to, if you're a person that wants to separate themselves when they do feel sad. And then your feet will usually follow suit with the shoulders, and face away from that person. And then with that, yeah, you're going to have your shoulders are slouched. You might even just make way less eye contact as well. But yeah, with that, let's say, sad, and there's also, there's going to have angry body close-off body orientation. This will usually be facing away too, at least slightly, like you're not going to be facing them directly. And then you might have your arms crossed to close yourself off from them, or you might, if you're at a table next to them, you might, have your arm up as to close yourself off from them as well. Sort of any, you're making a separation between them to kind of separate the way you guys are thinking at that time, if they're not angry, or if you're both angry about having two different sides of an argument. And then posture. I think I went over a little bit of that in body orientation because they do kind of commingle a little bit, but there's sort of the positive or open, and then closed or negative here too. So your positive body orientation is going to be, your chest is puffed, or your positive posture, sorry, is going to be more open to them, and your chest might be puffed if you're masculine, or feminine, that can be the case in both of those. But your chin will usually be up. You might, stand up straighter to have that more open body orientation. Or posture. Sorry, I keep saying body orientation. And then your posture, is going to be sort of the opposite of that. If you're in one of those like angry or sad situations, your posture might be a little bit more stiff. If you're in one of the angry or like negative, closed off body orientations, you might be a little stiffer or like sort of like twitchier, I guess. And then you might also still not make eye contact, of course. And then if you're in that sort of sad posture, you're gonna have, again, that slouch. So say we're using those in a practical sense, just like, talking with your boss initially. With your boss, you're gonna have your shoulders up, facing them. And then say you're sad or angry, like say you're in a breakup or something. If you just, you know what, I don't even want to talk to you right now. You're saying that to your significant other, or ex-significant other at this point. You're gonna be facing away from them, sort of slouching, not making eye contact. You might be, again, using your arm or some sort of separation measure with your body, crossing your arms or something, in order to portray that, portray what you said even further. Like, I don't even want to talk to you right now. So those are sort of the measures that you would take with your body orientation or posture to portray some sort of nonverbals to someone you may be talking to. So again, my name is Daniel Carpenter, and that was body orientation and posture in nonverbal communication. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Sorry. So my name is Marissa Garcia, and our group picked nonverbal communication as our presentation to talk about. The part that I got was our physical appearance and artifacts that help give a little bit of insight on what nonverbal communication is coming off of you and others that we see. So I'll start with appearance. This plays a factor in nonverbal communication, such as whether you wear makeup, whether you are dressed really nice, whether you just go out kind of looking bummy. It all plays a factor in how people perceive you and how you put yourself out there for people to kind of like a first impression of yourself. As to say, so like if you were to go to a job interview, for example, and you dress, in just jeans and a t-shirt as compared to wearing slacks and a button-up blouse or a suit, chances are when they interview you, they're gonna see you like, why didn't you come prepared, basically? Why didn't you dress, for the job? And that's just, it plays a big factor in, a lot of little things that we don't really think it will. Wearing jewelry even, so, some people like to wear a lot of jewelry, wear watches, necklaces, big earrings, and it all really has to depend on the person's status and their amount of money. If you wear Rolexes every day, or, you know, wear big old chains, and constantly make it known that you can afford these things. You're gonna seem kind of flashy to people. Every time they look at you, they're gonna be like, oh, like he just, oh, that's him, that's her, you know, they always wear those types of things, they must have money. That's the type of assumptions that we make about people based off the things we see off of them. And sometimes that can kind of be true about them, and then other times it's not really their character, they just, that's how they like to dress. You know, you have days where you dress up and days where you don't, and people will be thinking that you can't probably afford those things because you just always dress in sweatpants and a t-shirt, and you know, that happens all the time. In different cultures, it says in our book that we have, like, you know, even in some PowerPoints that Mr. Humphrey put up, you know, different cultures wear different things. In African American cultures, for like a lot of celebrations that they have or ceremonies, they all dress up, and you know, they wear a lot of gold and wear a lot of gowns and different types of clothing to represent their culture. Or in a lot of Indian cultures as well, you know, they have a lot of like dangly type of jewelry that they wear, and that when you see women who dress like that, you know, like, oh, that's their culture. And even in like Hispanic cultures, we wear a lot of like embroidery with flowers and long dresses with the like ruffles and the embroidery on them. So things like that, you can kind of distinguish between different races and different cultures, and you know, that's their norm for them. But to others who don't really see it all the time or don't know, you know, you just kind of look at them and it's like, that's different in a way. And even, you know, a big thing is, you know, people, the way they look can help them find their boyfriend or their girlfriend, their husband, their wife. If someone finds someone else more attractive compared to somebody else, of course they're going to go for that person than someone they don't see as attractiveness. That can even play a role in people getting jobs. At times, a lot of people can be like a little, not sexist, I want to say, but will determine who they like based off of their looks as well. And that's just something we do daily without even thinking about it, without even noticing that it's being done. Even myself, I know I've done it so many times, made assumptions based off of people just on something they are wearing, just that the fact that they didn't do their hair that day or something. I'm like, wow, like they kind of look a little bummy, and that's not right of me all the time. And I'm pretty sure a lot of times people do it to me as well. That's just the types of things that happen in this form of communication, and it's just that silent one that we do in our mind. And that's really about it when it comes to this physical appearance and artifacts that play into factors such as perfume as well, smells. You can always kind of make assumptions based on people based off of their smells, that you, whether they're clean or they're not clean, that those are things that play into this as well. Just little daily things that we do that we don't even notice are part of non-verbal communication as well. And that's really about it. And thank you for listening to my little segment, and have a good night.